Okay, so this is Elena. So intense love feeling. I have heard from people who are in the process of spiritual awakening, and they start to feel a very strong feeling of love only after they manage to dissolve some of the emotional pain. In my case, this is how the awakening began. With a very strong emotion of love. I felt a love that I had never felt before, so strong that I melted into it for a few seconds. I couldn't move at all. I then got scared, almost had a panic attack, and my nervous system immediately shut down. It was far too strong and unknown to keep feeling it. The feeling was insane. I thought God was in my body. And after this feeling, I started to cry almost every day. Is this normal or I started backwards? What really happened in my nervous system then? Well, I would say first that, so many different things can happen. Each person, will experience it differently. But that's an example of, so when you first came into contact with this love, um, maybe I would describe it as a moment. So imagine that we think so much, we live in the world of the mind, even though we have the five senses, but we're so much in the mind that it's odd to say that we're not in the body because ultimately you can't. You always are in the body. You are the body. But you can have this experience that you're not. So you're looking at, a park, but your mind is consumed by thinking. You're almost I'm sure people have had this experience where if you go so deep into thinking that you start seeing scenes in your mind, you will notice that you actually didn't see your vision. So somehow you couldn't see what was right in front of you. So this shows you that this moment of this unbelievable love is a moment where perhaps you were in the body, the way that an animal always is the body. And what's incredible is that, our natural state, the way that we were born, is so magnificent that when you have a taste of it, it feels like what she said. She said, I felt that I can't find it, that God was in my body. That's how unbelievable it was. Actually, that's a feeling of being in the body. You know, people are trying to escape to some spiritual realm. They want to die so that they can get to the afterlife because their bodily experience feels so poor. It doesn't feel like anything. When you have these glimpses, you're actually seeing that to be in the body is the most incredible experience, right? So I think that's what you experience there. And then let's see if I can add anything. Um, you said like, is it normal? Absolutely everything is normal, right? That's why we can't compare how one awakening happens to, one person to the other. Um, and I do think that when we come into contact, let's just call it love, that you said love, it opens, it's almost like a light. Yeah, that's a good analogy. So imagine that there's this place full of darkness, right? You could even call it demons, just filled with these beings. The moment that you're in the body, that you feel this intense love, it's like a light for a few seconds, the light of what you really are. You could experience it, but then what happens is that light shines on a little bit of the darkness, almost like a dirty room, and suddenly you can see stuff, right? A lot of fear, a lot of panic. So this happens on the journey a lot where you can feel intense bliss and ecstasy, and that experience can actually trigger more pain. It's almost the contrast. It hits more pain and then you feel this stuff.
Yeah, and it makes sense that with a bit of emotional processing, that maybe there was uh, a little bit of time there where the activity of the mind has subsided and your attention that's always there was completely placed on the body, which in contrast to it always being on the chatter of the mind will be like ecstasy. To have your full attention on the bodily sensation versus having it always spotlit on the endless painful chatter of the mind is, especially when the contrast is that vivid, from going from one to the other. It's going to be a huge experience feeling that compared to that. Um, so yeah, makes total sense, I think.
Yeah. and maybe I was just going to say, whether it's this intense love or an intense peace, because that is very different. Love feels like this very dramatic, godly love. And then peace feels very dead, but in a good way. And I was going to say it's almost like the nervous system has to get used to being that way, and that's why this awakening is so long. Because I remember when I had moments like that, and I didn't share it with anybody, but if you did, they would think that you're completely crazy, right? So I was in the park, and it just got more intense and more intense, and so I was looking at everything with this like unbelievable love, and I saw this like Japanese family. And then I started crying because I was like, wow, don't they know that they're love and we're just all loving, And I was crying because of that. And in reality, that's just you getting used to that. And it's not always going to be that way. Eventually, you kind of, I mean, that still happens even to me, but it becomes less and less and less because you got used to it, which is you're just basically getting used to I don't know if it's a sensation of love. And then later on is when peace is more rare at that stage, but you can have glimpses, and you'll see that it's so different to love because like I said, love feels like this dramatic bliss, and then peace is just this silence. And when it started happening to me at the very beginning, my mind was saying that this peace that you're feeling is called insanity. Like you're going crazy because the mind can't be this silent. That's crazy people, right? You have to have this talking for you to be a normal person. And so the process is very long for that reason. It's like if it were possible, here's a little bit of peace, right? And some people, if they experience a little bit of peace, they're going to go crazy and they're going to have psychosis. And so that's why this process is in stages. It has to be. It's too overwhelming. Okay.